this is a very interesting team. Obviously Sean McVay is still the head coach. There was some talk of him, maybe retiring. What was it, a year and a half ago? But he's back. He seems all in. He seems ready for the long haul. It doesn't seem like he's thinking about retirement anymore. Matthew Stafford is still there. Puka Nacua with a massive season last year to now give them a really good wide receiver duo when it is healthy between Nacua and Cooper Kupp. But the defense. You're moving on from Aaron Donald, not just one of the best defensive players of his time, but maybe one of the best defensive players of all time. And so anytime you have to do that, it's going to be tough. And I think that if you looked at the Rams defense going into last season, even with Aaron Donald, a lot of people would have told you, yeah, it's Aaron Donald and who else, right? I mean, Jalen Ramsey was gone. He was to the Miami Dolphins. And so there just wasn't a lot of star power there on that defense. Now, if you're taking Aaron Donald out of it, it's looking for major contributors. So you've got them going 10-7. Do you have them making a deep playoff run? And then let's start to get into offensive MVP before we flip over to defense.
Not a deep playoff run. I do have them losing in the wild card round. I think we still need to see their defense play well. I think they're stacked on offense. Obviously, those guys you mentioned, plus an offensive line. I really like the Jonah Jackson signing. Their offensive line is so much better than it looked in the preseason a year ago. It gives them the really good chance. I thought their biggest strength last year was the balance that they had on offense, too. Not just Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua in the passing game, but Kyren Williams and the run game that just saw a resurgence. And now you have Kyren Williams and Blake Corum back there. Punt returner Kyren Williams, by the way. So you've got Kyren returning punts and running the ball. You got Blake Corum running the ball, who I thought last year in college played the position better than anybody in college. Just his knowledge of just the offense and blocking schemes and knowing how to play the position. He's not the guy with the most imposing physical tools, but the way that he runs the football and his vision and his agility, I think, are a big asset for this team. A team that's gone to a lot more gap and duo run blocking schemes. That's something he's very familiar with from Michigan. So, look, their offensive MVP, though, has to be Matthew Stafford. Just has to be. I mean, he turned in one of his best seasons last year, one of his most efficient seasons. And look, this is a legendary arm that's still not going away at his age. A 97.1 deep passing grade that was third best in the NFL. And I mentioned that running game and that balance at what it gave them. He had the second best play action passing grade in the NFL at 92.7. So I think what they did last year, they said, look, we got to find guys on the offensive line. Sean McVay has always wanted to run the ball, and I think it's amazing with McVay, he's been a Shanahan guy, right? He's an outside zone guy. That's what they're going to do. Just like Kyle Shanahan, just like Mike Shanahan, just like Matt LaFleur and every other coach that does it. But last year he made the adjustment, and the Rams ran more man schemes in the run game than any team in the league. So he made the adjustment. He signed a guy. They got a steal in Kevin Dotson, who ended up being one of the best guards in football. Right?
Yep.
They still have Rob Havenstein on the right tackle spot. They got Steve Avila, who was a good draft pick last year. The rebuilding of this offensive line in this run game not only has obviously made the run game better, but it's made Matt Stafford better. It's made their passing game better. It's just that was the biggest strength to me, was their offensive balance last year. But Stafford's the one who makes the whole thing go, right? Checking in and out of calls, making freakish throws, making no-look throws still. I mean, what he's done, honestly, I don't think Stafford, we talk about guys who are the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen, right? Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and, some of these guys who just are freakish. Matt Stafford's freakishly talented. For him to still make some of the throws that he makes at his age is unreal, and he's the glue that holds this offense together.
No, you mentioned it's a legendary arm, from his time at Georgia all the way through the NFL when he was with Detroit, and even what we've seen from him with the Rams. I think that there's a big reason why the Rams go and make that trade, and why Sean McVay was able to win a Super Bowl with this guy. It's because it just unlocks so many different things that you can do on offense when you have a talented passer like this. So I agree with you completely. Stafford has to be the MVP for this team. 86.0 passing grade in 2023, which was the highest of his career, fourth highest big time throw rate, lowest turnover worthy play rate. So the guy is still pushing it deep down the field, but he's getting wiser. That wisdom is there in his mid-30s. Lowest turnover worthy play rate of Stafford's career. Very, very impressive. But yeah, I mean, you just look at the offense overall, and I love the fact that they just got ass kickers now up front on the interior offensive line. I mean, Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, Jonah Jackson. I mean, those are spit and vinegar. Those are eating a bowl of nails for breakfast type of interior offensive linemen. And so it is. I'm glad that you brought it up. It's very different than the finesse run game that people think about when they think about Sean McVay. And I think that there's certainly a reason why he is leaning into that. And I talked about the receivers, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, but Also, I think this team has over the last year, I would say, acquired so many young players that I go, God, yeah, of course, and it's going to work out for you. Jordan Whittington's one of them. Former five-star recruit who went to Texas and just had a really bad run of injuries that kind of derailed what could have been a great college career for him. But now he's healthy, and we saw him flash during the preseason. I could see them getting so much out of Jordan Whittington like they did with Puka Nacua. Now, obviously, I don't think Whittington's going to break the rookie receiving record, but be a contributor when nobody else really thought that he would have been as a late-round draft pick. You look at the running back room, you highlighted it very well. Kyren Williams at the top, who was kind of an afterthought in his draft class. Blake Corum, who I think is just a perfect compliment. And then I don't know if you caught this, but they picked up Cody Schrader as well, which is hilarious because I think in my head, you think about what Cody Schrader was last year for Missouri, and you go, if somehow Kyren Williams and Blake Corum go down, I still have faith in this run game because I feel like he's going to get the most out of what was a very productive Cody Schrader last year. So anyways, I think that Matthew Stafford has to be the MVP for this team, but it's an offense that's setting up to be a lot of fun. Defensive MVP, I'm looking at our show sheet now, and once again, we are in lockstep here with Mr. Kobe Turner on the defensive line. Talk to me about Turner and why you think he's going to be a defensive MVP for him.
Well, I tried to find someone else. I really did. I tried not to be synced up on both of these, and I just couldn't do it, especially with Aaron Donald retiring. And you talk about, as a rookie, an 83.8 overall grade. That was the third best by any defensive rookie in football behind Jalen Carter and Devin Witherspoon. I mean, just an elite player in his first season. 80.5 pass rush grade, 11 sacks, 36 stops. Just what he was able to do. Now, it's interesting to see now with Aaron Donald gone, and maybe Turner gets less of the one-on-one matchups because you have to double and triple Aaron Donald. We'll see where it goes from here with him as the feature guy. Now, hopefully Braden Fisk can help him with that as well, but his ability to win one-on-one matchups last year, just awesome. I mean, he's a great athlete on the inside. He makes so many plays. He has a nose for the football. I just think the development of him inside in what could have is probably, we think, his only year next to Aaron Donald gives you such hope for this defense and this front seven. And now you get Braden Fisk next to him, you get Jared Verse next to him, and look, this defensive line is going to be the core of this team. This is a team that ranked last in coverage grade last season in the NFL. So you're talking about the core of it being the defensive line, and look, Kobe Turner's probably not going to end up being Aaron Donald, but I'll tell you what, as a rookie, you can't put too much doubt on the fact that he might be just one of the best defensive tackles in the league very soon, if not already. Turner and what he brings gives you at least some hope that they can get through the retirement of Aaron Donald.
Yeah, thank you for throwing the word probably in there and leaving the door open for the fact that Kobe Turner could be, Aaron Donald coming up. I appreciate you doing that, and Kobe Turner probably does too. No, some more numbers to just kind of echo your point about how good Kobe Turner was. 83.2 defensive grade, second highest on the team, only to Aaron Donald. From week 11 on of last season, Turner earned a 90.2 pass rushing grade and an 18.3 pass rush win percentage. That is elite stuff for an interior defensive lineman. You love to see it. I just can't wait to see what he's going to be now as the main guy on that defensive line. Can those numbers stay up? Because if they do, you don't have to bring up the Aaron Donald comp, but you could talk about a guy who has an all-pro type of potential and the impact that he can have on that defensive line. What about a breakout player for this team? What do you got?
I'm going to stay on the defensive line. I'm going to go another edge player, a guy who's probably going to start across from Jared Verse. That's Byron Young, the third round pick out of Tennessee.
Man.
Yeah, tied for second among rookies and second on the team with 51 pressures, forced 2 fumbles, and he's just the same thing he was at Tennessee. He's just a grinder. Like, he's just this guy that works, and the grades aren't super, super high yet. He's got the pass rush win rate has to get a little bit higher, but he's just a guy who just works. And for a guy like Young to emerge last year as someone they could rely on, and now they can develop into a potentially plus starter with so much playing time last year, because again, the X factor last year was just, look how young this defense is and who's going to emerge and who are the guys that can be foundational pieces moving forward. And Byron Young is another one. I mean, you look at this defensive line, And let's just say you're looking at a front four, even though it's so young, of Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, and Byron Young. You could do a lot worse than that if you were building a defensive line from scratch. But I think Young is a big piece. Again, to be second on this team in pressures last season, I think is a big accomplishment because there's so many young guys. There was so many guys fighting for playing time. Other than Aaron Donald, you really didn't know what to expect. But their D-line was a lot better than I think, at least their edge group especially, was a lot better than we expected it to be last year. And Byron Young was a big part of that, and I expect him to be a big part of that moving forward.
I was a fan of Young coming out of the draft. I really was, especially when you understand his background and he came from Georgia Military Academy. He really hadn't been playing football at a high level for that long. He was only at Tennessee for 2 years. He was still kind of trying to figure it out. And so when you look at his game, you go, oh man, his game is really raw. Well, of course it's going to be raw. You got to look at the context of the journey that he's had to get to that point. So I was a big fan of his coming into that draft, and there's a reason why the Rams drafted him. It's because 4.43 40-yard dash, 98th percentile, 38-inch vertical jump, 91st percentile, 132-inch broad jump, 98th percentile. The man is explosive. And all he really needed, I think, was more time and some good D-line teaching, and you were going to unlock a really great athlete. And I think that absolutely showed up on tape. So love the call out there. I'm going to go back to the offensive line. I'm going to say Steve Avila. He was in that trio of guys who I think are absolute road graders for this team to be able to play between the tackles and really run north-south duo, man gap concepts, all that stuff. And so I think that Avila being moved from guard to center is going to be great for them because Avila, 61.0 overall grade in 2023 on over 1,100 snaps, all at left guard. Now he's playing in the center position. If you go back to his time at TCU, 75.8 and 82.0 season grades while he was at TCU playing the center position. So it feels like that is actually the most natural for him. I watched a lot of his tape when he was at guard at TCU, and so I didn't exactly evaluate him as a center specifically, but I knew he had that versatility to him. It seems as though his best spot is there at center, especially with those two super strong dudes that are right next to him. I love the trio that they have there on the interior. So I think it's going to be a great year for Steve Avila as one of the better young centers in the game. Best team rookie this year.
So real quick on Avila, though. It looks like, I believe Sean McVay announced last week that it looks like he's actually going to flip that back and leave, and he's going to leave Avila. It's a surprising move, but it's. I believe he told the media he's going to leave Avila now at guard and put Jonah Jackson at center. He's going to flip it like last minute. I think it was last week that he announced this. That they're actually reversing course on that, and they're going to put Avila back at guard, and Jonah Jackson, who I don't think has played any center in the NFL, I'm pretty sure. Jonah Jackson's good. Their high-priced guard that they got in free agency, he's going to play center now. So I'm not sure what's behind the last-minute switch there about 2 weeks to go before the season started for them. But that's what. And Avila's still a really good player. He did a solid rookie season at guard, but it looks like he's going to stay at guard. And now we're going to see Jonah Jackson at center. So I'm a little curious to see with such a late break in that dynamic that they worked with Avila played center all offseason. All training camp.
Right, that was the talk.
Until literally like a week or a week and a half ago. It's very recent that they made that switch back. But I do think you're right. I think he's a big piece, and in year two he could be a lot better. But it's an interesting story for the Rams going forward is, one, Avila staying at guard, and two, Jonah Jackson playing center, because I would have to find this right now. I don't know that he's played center in the NFL.
I don't think he has. But
moving ahead to best rookie while I find that really quick.
I can find it for you. You talk about best rookie, and I'll find it for you.
I'm going to take a home run swing here. I'm going to take a super home run swing. And you know what? I said, I could easily go with Jared Verse. I could go with the first-round pick and do that. But we had a really interesting story with the Rams at linebacker. The trade of Ernest Jones surprised a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think as such a young starter, 24 years old, solid player, trade him to Tennessee for not a whole lot. What's going on here? What's going on with the Rams at linebacker? And there seems to be a rookie linebacker out of LSU, an undrafted player out of LSU that they really like enough to have given him a starting linebacker job. That's Omar Spates from LSU, a 90.6 overall grade in the preseason. And I was thinking the same things as everybody else. What is going on here? Why on a defense with a back seven that we're just trying to cobble together are we trading our middle linebacker? And then you watch this guy in the preseason. Really good athlete, really good run defender. And I'll tell you what, you want a hard hitter, you want one of those tone setters at middle linebacker, this guy steps up in the hole and hits people. I'm talking like absolute hammer, and he's really good at shedding blocks. Look, I think he's showing us a lot of stuff that he didn't show us at LSU. It seems that the Rams have kind of unlocked him. I look at his skill set when I watch his preseason tape. We talked about KJ Britt for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how he's just always in the right spot, and he knows how to work off blocks, and he knows how to tackle, and he just understands fundamentally what to do. I think Spates is like that, but also a little more athletic and a little more sideline-to-sideline ability, and I think he stands a chance in coverage. Obviously, there's going to be times where teams go at him in coverage because he's such a young player, but this is the guy that's emerged in that place for Ernest Jones. Now, it's a lot of pressure to be the middle linebacker of any football team, but to be the middle linebacker of this team that's so young and trying to put so many pieces together, Omar Spates is going to be a really fun story to watch, and if he emerges as a legitimate piece at linebacker for them, I mean, it's interesting with getting rid of Ernest Jones, but they may have found a player that they feel like is even better than that.
Clearly, they thought that Jones is expendable. So, man, good for Space to earn that job, and obviously earn a lot of faith very quickly in this coaching staff. I'll go with Braden Fisk. They draft Jared Verse, they draft Braden Fisk. We haven't talked about either of those guys, but I think they're going to be major players on that defensive line. Certainly, when you talk about replacing Aaron Donald, it takes a village, if you will, as the saying goes. And so I think that Kobe Turner can definitely step up, but I don't think that you replace Aaron Donald with just one player, even for as good as Kobe Turner ended the season last year. It's going to take multiple players, and there's a reason why they traded up and gave up a good amount to go get Braden Fisk at the top of the second round. And I think that they're envisioning him and Kobe Turner really being a speed mismatch on the inside. Now, if you're playing both of those guys, are you giving up a little bit in the run game? Maybe. We'll see. I guess you got to see how they're going to mitigate that when both those guys are on the field. But I think certainly in passing situations, that's how you can give interior offensive lineman fits. Fisk really ended the year well at FSU, played really well in the Senior Bowl as well, was a monster at the Combine, and I think the Rams are really excited about him, and again, prioritized him in the draft by trading up for him for a reason. And so I think that they are going to give him as many opportunities as he can to get after the passer this year at one of those interior defensive line spots. So he is somebody that I'm looking forward to